Thank you very much, Vasily, and thank you for the invitation. I will present you some main aspects of continuous vet in Germany. First, I think it's interesting to see what's going on with the development of ICT, information and technology in firms. And I had three hypotheses I took from a recent survey in my institute. Whether the introduction of ICT in firms leads to increased participation in firm-based continuing training. Have a thought about this. Then if the introduction of ICT in firms especially increase the participation of employees with high qualified tasks in a company. And the third hypothesis is if the introduction of ICT in firms should increase the participation of employees with low qualified tasks. As you see, high qualified task, low qualified task is an issue which Mike evoked before. And now if I go to the solution, so to say, we see that even with the introduction of ICT in firms, the ones with low qualified tasks are less probable to take place to CVET in companies. It's sure that companies that invest in technology promote at the same time the further training of their employees. And I think this is an effect for all companies that should not be underscored. So setting the scene in Germany, about 45% of all companies were active in CVET in 2018. But we see in Germany a strong need for CVET due to skills imbalances between the different regions in Germany of the labor market. We see accelerated changes due to digitalization, population aging, and the transition to low carbon economy. And these are the stresses not only for policymakers, but also for companies. And even though the participation rates in CVET in Germany are slightly above the OECD average, there's still unequal participation by socio-demographic groups, by gender, and by migration backgrounds. It has been for years and ages, I would say, that adults with low skills, low wages, working in SMEs have particularly low participation rates in CVET. And the OECD pointed at, I think, one of the characteristics of the IVET and CVET systems in Germany, the very complex governance structure. We are a federal state with 16 lenders, which means that we have at least 16 institutions and ministries in charge of education and training, with all the other institutions being equally federalized. I took the example of Germany, and you see, you had the overall worldwide scope by Mareke. What we see for Germany in 2012 was that the workers in SME are less participated to job-related CVET or learning. It's around below 50%. Whereas workers in large companies are well benefiting from job-related learning. And as I mentioned before, is of course a low qualified workforce is less participating to CVET than those with medium or high qualified background. By age, you see also a huge difference by employment, and you see in one slide here, the one with the migration or non-migration background, which is an issue in Germany and especially for CVET. If we look more in details, and this is from a German source, the participation share of enterprises active in continuing education in a time row 2001 to 2018, you see that large companies, those over 250 employees, are participating to CVET up to 97%, which is nearly all of them. Whereas in very small companies, 1 to 9 employees, the participation rate is of 44, which means half of the big company. And this is something the government and the companies are trying to solve, but it takes time. Then if you look at in which branches do those companies are active, you'll find that most of them is from the public administration sector, for 85%. And the other high rate is the one by organizations, companies involved in education and training, which might not be so surprising, but nevertheless, it could be also increased by all the other sectors we have. In general business, scientific, professional services is the next one in terms of percentage, 61%. And you have the one mining, energy, water, and waste, with 70% of all companies being active in continuing education. This is, I would say, linked to the meaning of this branch into the German economic background. If we look now more generally, the provision of CVET in companies depends strongly on the size of enterprises, depends on the employment characteristics, and it's a mix of being full-time or part-time. It's a mix of having fixed or flexible working hours. It also depends on the nature of the task of the single persons. If they are allocated or fulfilling simple tasks or more complicated tasks. You can read by yourself the statement afterwards. The companies which are offering CVET have different schemes at their disposals. And you see that in 2018, most of the CVET measures were external courses. 86% in 2018, with a constant increase in this kind of training offer in CVET. Also, I would say a constant increase in measures of continuing training at the workplace, which means that it puts, to my view, additional stress on the companies because they have to organize it, or maybe it's a chance for online learning, we will see. And the other percentage on the ranking list is internal courses, which are most of those courses are developed by the companies themselves, which might give a hint that it is rather offered by large companies than by small ones. What happens in Germany, and this is a spotlight from the OECD publication, is that we have a huge number of offers for CVET and CVET guidance. And all in the first column, you find all the ministries and all the national federal institutions and all the programs. And this is only one example of offers. And I think this led the government to set up a national skills strategy, not only to tackle the issue of skills mismatch, but also to improve the guidance structure and the networking. To improve the issue of financial support, which should be more targeted, and we have special measures for SMEs, and also to give a content-oriented support. And all the work on those three issues should lead, according to the members of the National Skills Strategy, to an improvement of the overall situation. I put on the corner of this slide the logos of all the organizations, because I think it's important to mention that these national skills strategies is backed up by trade unions, by employers' organizations, as well as federal ministries engaged in education, training, and research, and labor market, and economy. So it's a real national skills strategy. It was adopted in summer 2019, and we have meanwhile some evaluation report to show progress. So thank you for your attention. I'm at your disposal for questions here or anytime you wish, and happy to cooperate with you. Thank you very much.